All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm hoping you're having a wonderful time here on your second day at Cisco Live in Amsterdam. My name is Fay-Ann Lee. This session is, welcome to session BRKSEC 2129. This session is on Cisco Plus Secure Connect with a specific focus on deploying and scaling SASE to secure your remote workers. WebEx app, we do have it available for this session. Originally, my colleague was going to be in here in this room monitoring the session while I'm speaking. Unfortunately, he got pulled away to a customer meeting, so there won't be anybody monitoring the WebEx session, but do please join the WebEx session and post any questions that you have there. We'll be monitoring that space for the next 2 weeks. I'm also, at the end of this session, I'll be happy to take your questions live. I'm also available right after this session, or please feel free to schedule a Meet the Engineer session with me at a time that's more convenient for you. A little bit about me. I'm a technical marketing engineer currently on the cloud security team. I work with our product management and of our development engineers to build the security side of the SASE solution. I've been with Cisco for over 20 years now, and it's a little, today in particular reminds me of just how long I've been here. When I joined Cisco, the new thing that the group that I was in, we brought into Cisco was VPN concentrators. We added them to the Cisco portfolio back in 2000. At that time, I was a technical support engineer. Over time, I decided to switch my roles from fixing issues and bugging engineering to fix customer problems to building our solutions. Since then, I've learned a lot about routing and switching, identity, context, policy. How can you not when you're working for Cisco, right? It's been a wonderful journey, and I guess time flies when you're having fun. All right, so today my agenda is I'll start with an overview, dive into the use cases, and then dive into the architecture and the capabilities. And I'm going to sprinkle my session with some demos. I've got 3 demos for you today. If you're like me, in lieu of being able to have hands-on time with a particular product, demos are really super helpful for me to understand a particular solution. So part of the reason why I'm not taking questions live today is because I want to get through those demos, and I hope that they'll be helpful for you. Then finally, a wrap-up. In your deck, you're going to see some slides that I'm not presenting today. They're there for your reference. And let's get started. All right, so the focus here is on the secure remote worker. But what does that really mean? What is it that we're trying to achieve? Well, simply, we want to connect our users securely to the applications and also keep them safe while they work. That's the ultimate goal. When I first started at Cisco, if you asked me the question, how do you get users connecting to applications, I would have told you, well, you buy our VPN concentrator, and you establish site-to-site connections and handle remote access connections in that VPN concentrator. You centralize your security stack there, and all your applications resided in the data center, and you built your perimeter around there. Fast forward a couple years. Today, more of our traffic is going towards the internet, especially since now those applications that reside in the data center, they're no longer there. They're actually moving up to the cloud. So the perimeter that we need to protect is now evolving and expanding. And to add to the complexity, technology changes that allow us to be mobile these days, Now, our users are not just hardwired, sitting at their desktops hardwired, they're everywhere. accessing the applications either using their personal devices or their corporate issued machines. And so with the challenge of users being everywhere and applications residing anywhere, the way we secure, control, and set governance to about how we do things needs to evolve and change. And so recognizing this change to user to application behavior, back in 2019, Gartner coined a term, Secure Access Service Edge, SASE. And it's all about the convergence of wide area networking and security services like access control, threat prevention, data protection, all into a single unified cloud-delivered service. And together, these capabilities at the cloud edge become your new perimeter where your users can connect from anywhere and securely access those applications, whether they reside in the data center or in the cloud. Cisco's solution to SASE is Cisco plus Secure Connect. Cisco plus Secure Connect is designed to provide a simple to use unified turnkey SASE solution that's built on the capabilities of Cisco Umbrella coupled with Cisco SD-WAN and Meraki SD-WAN, all delivered from and managed and deployed from a single unified integrated dashboard. And I'll show you what that looks like in the demonstrations that I have for you today. The three main functions of Secure Connect, first and foremost, is secure internet access. We all know that threats are there on the internet, so we need to go ahead and protect our users. Secure Connect leverages Cisco Umbrella to provide DNS security. Layer 3, Layer 4, Layer 7 application control, web security, data protection, and CASB. All of these services are combined to provide your users and devices that safe access to the internet from no matter where they are. The second thing is to secure private access. And for this, we offer two options. First is the traditional AnyConnect VPN connection, where the user gets all ports and protocols access to the applications and internal applications. The second is a clientless approach, where users can just use a browser and they get authorized access to a specific application and nothing else. The third is the interconnect, and this leverages the global backbone that Cisco Umbrella has to go ahead and connect your users, devices, and applications and branches as well. With over 1,000 peerings with partners, more than likely connecting to the Secure Connect fabric is from wherever you are, is the faster path to your end destination. Moving on to our use cases. The first one is what we call our client-based secure remote worker. This is your traditional AnyConnect VPN connection where the user gets all ports and protocols access to an application. This is ideal for those legacy applications that you're not able to not yet move up to the cloud, or you just can't. All right? So if you start at the left, okay, sorry, a little backwards now. Left, right? So we've got that user's device with the VPN client installed on it, and that user is going to establish a VPN connection, not to a VPN concentrator on-prem, but directly to the Secure Connect cloud. Right? Now, before they can establish that connection, we can go ahead. We do need to authenticate them. You can optionally configure MFA as well, and you can optionally enable posture to make sure that that user is authorized to actually connect into your fabric. Once the user is connected, then we can go ahead and redirect that traffic. We're relying on the Secure Connect fabric to route that user's traffic. For traffic that's bound to the internet, we'll route that through our cloud-based security stack, Umbrella Security Stack. For traffic that's routed towards internal applications, we can go ahead and secure that connection by routing that traffic through the cloud-delivered firewall, which provides layer 3 and layer 4 identity-based filtering. Right? So the users don't just connect to the fabric and get open access to the applications. They actually do need there is access control there as well. I want to point out here on the left-hand side, or excuse me, far right-hand side at this point in time, far right? So for the purposes of the diagram, right, we show that the traffic exiting the cloud, right, those are going to be tunnel connections. Traffic that goes out to the internet is just straight out to the internet. Any traffic that's going to internal applications, basically what we'll do is establish a tunnel connection there. If you're using, that would be a standard IPsec connection, or if you have Meraki SD-WAN, you would be using AutoVPN. The other thing I want to point out there is, for the purposes of this diagram, right, where traffic is just exiting the cloud, I want to point out that same tunnel connection can be used for inbound traffic coming into the cloud. So for example, if you've got users sitting in your branches, right, they can use that tunnel connection to route, that would be their connection out to the internet or to another site. So site-to-site connections would route through our Secure Connect fabric. The second option I mentioned about how users can connect is what we call the browser-based access. It's our client-list secure remote worker option. And like I said, the way it works is a user will use a browser, and this gives them the ability to get authorized per app access. So what we do as part of the service, we go ahead and we generate an externally facing URL for the application. You don't have to purchase any certificates. You don't need to do any DNS configuration. We do all of that for you. And so the result is the user gets an application URL, they enter it in their browser, and then if they're authorized, they'll get access to that specific application. So you'll need to do this connection for each and every app that the user wants, the internal app that the user wants to access. I was talking about that browser-based access. Remember, that's a clientless access to an internal application specifically. And then you probably are sitting there wondering, well, what about securing my access to the internet? Well, you do have security there. For those of you who are familiar with Umbrella, the roaming module will be sitting there on your endpoint, and it'll still be active. It'll be providing your DNS security, your web security, just as you would expect it to do today. So now, what you have here with these two options here is security to an internal application that's clientless based, and then with the roaming agent, you've got your internet connections secure as well. Moving on to our architecture and capabilities. All right, at a high level, there's 4 areas within Secure Connect. The first 2, or rather these 2, are what you own, right? You provide the users and the internal applications that those users want to reach. What Secure Connect is what's in the middle here, the service edge and the platform. So the responsibility of the service edge, that cloud edge delivering services, is to go ahead and acquire traffic from your users, whether that's a client user that's using the browser for browser-based access for ZTNA capabilities, or a VPN user that needs all ports and protocols access to the internal application. Once we acquire that traffic, we then forward that traffic into our platform. And at this point, it's all about authorization. Who is the user? Is that user's device compliant? And what sort of access does that user have, whether it's through our cloud-delivered firewall or the ZTNA proxy? Then the very last step is all about how do we connect into those applications. So whether it's using our web proxy to get to SaaS-based applications or the internet, or that traffic is trying to go towards an internal application, and that traffic would actually route directly down to it through our internet, our interconnect, and use the backhaul connections that you've got configured to access those internal applications. One thing I want to point out while I'm here is what you need to care about is mostly about your users and the applications. And what I mean by that is, first, from an application perspective, right? What are the policies that you want to put in place to control access to those applications, in particular the internal applications? And second, how do you want your users to access those applications? I mentioned about our browser-based, our clientless approach. Right? Realize that since those connections are a per app connection, you have to decide, you have to configure which of all your applications, which ones of those applications you want to configure to allow this type of clientless connection to. And you need to define that for each and every application that you want to provide that type of connectivity to. One thing I want to forget, before I put this in here so I wouldn't forget, there's some people, my teammates in the back room there, that also remind me, bye, thanks for coming, is a branch connection. All right, so this session is focused on the secure remote worker. So yes, as part of Cisco Plus Secure Connect, we do acquire traffic incoming from site connection, branch connections. I'm not focusing on that in this session. There is a session this Thursday. It's BRKMER 1003. That session is all about the branch connectivity that we have within our Cisco Plus Secure Connect solution. Now, I'm moving on to how do we go ahead and set up the remote access service. All right, so this is what I call our checklist page, and it's what I'm going to use as my outline for the rest of this session. Okay, you can do any of these options in any order, but if you were to start from the top, logically, the way we've laid this out is first, you want to enable the remote access service, allow your users to connect to VPN. The next step is configuring that backhaul connectivity to the internal applications. Next, you need identity. To identify the users, you want to authenticate them and authorize them for access. And ultimately, the identity, we can go ahead and use that identity in the policies that we build. All right, so starting up at the top, we're going to go ahead and enable the remote access service. And remember, I want you to focus on the fact that what we're delivering here is a turnkey SASE solution. So our goal is simple to set up and quickly, and setup is very quick. All right, so what we're doing here in terms of configuring the service, we're only going to ask you the key configuration things like DNS. Obviously, you need to be able to resolve the applications that you're trying to reach. So what are the DNS servers? Those DNS servers would also be able to resolve those internal applications, right? As well as the external applications. Next thing is traffic steering. How much of the tunnel traffic do you want to, how much traffic what type of traffic do you want to send through the tunnel? Is it all traffic, both internet-bound and internally bound traffic, or do you want to split that traffic? Next is about the client configuration, little specific things about the AnyConnect VPN client. Whether you want the client to auto-reconnect, whether the user can go ahead and change any of the settings, session timeout, and session timeout. The next thing that you can configure, and this is optional, is posture checking, endpoint compliance. We support posture today for using operating system, device certificate, and then this is new, just released just last week, anti-malware checks, firewall, is that firewall on the endpoint is enabled, and disk encryption. So these are the types of posture checks that you can do. Now this diagram right here will become very much more clear when you actually see my demo, but what we do is enabling the service, what we'll do is automatically generate a FQDN for the users to connect to. So they'll enter that FQDN into their VPN client, and that FQDN is going to use Anycast DNS to route that user to the nearest data center. Okay. Now, today we support with Secure Connect 2 regions, North America and Europe. Asia is coming later on this year. And in each region, we have 4 data centers. If one data center should go down, the user will automatically be redirected via Anycast DNS to the next nearest data center to go ahead and connect to Secure Connect. One thing I wanted to point out with this slide here is for those of you that don't have AnyConnect installed today, you do get the AnyConnect VPN client as well as the roaming agent as part of your Secure Connect subscription. So the two combined will provide you that security, whether you're always on security, whether you're on VPN or off VPN. All right, so let me move on to my demo. Did that work? Okay, great. All right, so what I'm going to be showing you here, this is that checklist page, and what I'm about to do is enable the remote access service. And the point I'm trying to show you here is exactly how easy it is to enable the service for global access. All right. So I want to configure the remote access service, and as I mentioned, now we're specifying the DNS servers to go ahead and resolve the applications that we want to reach. Adding in the domain as well. Moving forward, enabling traffic steering. I have the option of specifying what type of traffic I want to steer inside the tunnel or outside of the tunnel based on subnets. Client configuration. This is the VPN client. Do I want users to be able to auto-reconnect? Do I want them to be able to change the settings on their own? A nice welcome banner, hello, whatever you want. And if you don't have the AnyConnect client, we do provide a link there for you to get the AnyConnect client. And here's the piece. Right here, this is where you're specifying where do I want this service to be enabled for, which region. In this example here, I've just chosen the North America region. I said that there were 4 data centers. Each data center, they need their own unique client, IP pool to assign the users when they connect. These IP pools cannot overlap with each other today. Once I've specified that, now I've got the service enabled, and what we have here is, right, we've got the service enabled. This is the FQDN that the users can connect to. That will use Anycast DNS to route those users to any one of these 4 data centers, Palo Alto, New York, and LA, and Ashburn. All right. If the user needs to connect to a specific head-end, they can go ahead and use the location-specific URL, right? Or excuse me, FQDN right here. Now, I mentioned that we have posture checking available as well. That is an option, so it's not part of this, quick setup flow, but it's really easy to enable. We go to endpoint compliance, and we go ahead and enable the checks that we want. So here I'm enabling anti-malware for Windows. I have the option as well to check whether we want to block the user if it's not enabled. For the firewall, we also check whether or not the firewall is enabled on that endpoint, if you wish. And finally, we get to configuring disk encryption. Save it. So let's say I've got this is what the user will see. I've got my user connecting here. They're being authenticated. I haven't gone over authentication yet, but we'll get there. But this user is being authenticated at the moment, and they failed the posture check. So what does the user see? They get this message here, and it clearly shows that the reason why they failed to connect is they didn't meet the anti-malware and firewall compliance rules. If that user were to be able to connect, we'd be able to monitor that user's session. So here I'm going here. I've got my user, I'm a healer. This is an example of a doctor, by the way. That's the reason for the name, I'm a healer. All right, and what we see here is this user is online. She's enabled for remote access, VPN. We got some context from her, and I'm using Active Directory here, so these are the AD groups that I'm a member of. And if I want to get some details of what she's doing, I can see that I've got 28,000 blocks at the moment. If I need more detail, I can go ahead and click. This pop-up comes up, and I see that there's a bunch of web blocks. What are those blocks? What were those hits? And here. These are all the sites that she was blocked from. All right, moving on to this. All right, so now that we've enabled the remote access service, users are able to connect from wherever they are in the world. All right, now we're moving on to configuring that backhaul connection. How do those users, now that they're connected to the Secure Connect fabric, the cloud, how do they access those internal applications? So for that backhaul connection, we support 2 kinds of things. If you are using Meraki SD-WAN today, we support that. We have a deep integration with that. And literally, onboarding a Meraki site is actually 2 clicks. You choose the site, you choose your region, and you're done. That automatically brings up the IPsec, the auto VPN tunnel to Secure Connect. No need to be sitting there typing your crypto, Ike, whatever it is, all those different commands. I don't remember them anymore. But there's no need to do that, right? And in each region, we automatically have 2 DC pairs, a primary and a secondary. And the secondary becomes active only if the primary goes down. If you don't have Meraki, then you would be establishing an IPsec, standard IPsec VPN tunnel. And at this point, and that would be a tunnel connection from the umbrella cloud directly to wherever your private apps reside. Today, we don't support dynamic routing through this tunnel connection, so you do need to go ahead and specify the subnets that your users reside on. Sorry. Didn't mean to do that. All right, I'm not going to try to do this right now. All right, so that's your IPsec backhaul connection. And the way the routing will work here, let's say in this example here, let's say my data center DC1 is in San Jose. Data center 2 is in Europe, somewhere in Amsterdam, here in Amsterdam, all right? And so those two DCs are in different locations, and that's where the applications, my private internal applications reside, in data centers in those two locations. So I'm a remote user here. I've traveled here to Amsterdam. I can establish a VPN connection, and I'll be, through Anycast DNS, I'll be automatically routed to the Amsterdam DC. So at that, now I'm connected to the Secure Connect fabric, and then I'll be able to use the backbone of the Secure Connect fabric to connect me to the Amsterdam applications in Amsterdam, as well as the applications in San Jose. Moving on to identity, user identity. With Secure Connect, we offer a number of ways to authenticate end users. So if you're using SAML 2.0, we support bringing your own SAML provider. For those of you that are using Umbrella, there's no change here. The configuration, the way you configure it is just the same. If you don't have an identity provider, we can provide one for you. And those of you who are using Meraki CloudAuth today, your users, they'll automatically be synced into Secure Connect. As I mentioned, if you don't have an identity provider, we can create one. We do offer one for you, Meraki CloudAuth. It's more of like a local user database, right? So if you have a new user, you do configure their name, their email address. We'll email that user their password, and that's it. Now they've got their identity, and they'll be able to connect to Secure Connect. And we'll be able to use that identity in the policies that we define. Moving on to access control policies. All right, so this is specifically, I'm focusing right now not for defining, you don't need to define the internet applications. You don't have to configure those. What we're configuring here are the internal applications. And then remember, the way we can access our internal applications, we've got two methods. One is for the VPN user, so that would be more of a network-based access, as well as the clientless or ZTNA user, which would be browser-based. So diving into the clientless configuration, right? So as you can see here, we're configuring one, we're specifying the IP address of the application and the port, 80 or 443. Those are the two ports that we proxy today. We will be supporting SSH and RDP in the future. When you have several apps that are behind that share one IP, you can go ahead and specify the SNI information. We can also do certificate checks. Remember, we're generating the certificate for you. You're not buying a certificate for this use. And then we'll generate a URL, an external URL that users will use to be able to get that proxy access back to the application. And that URL is going to look something like this. So the name of this application that I'm configuring here is Medical Apps. So the URL that will be generated is medical apps hyphen your Secure Connect organization number .ztna.ciscoplus.com. So pretty easy URL to kind of figure out what it's going to look like, but don't forget that you do need to have authorized access. So what we're looking here is our browser-based policy. You do need to meet the requirements configured here in the policy. So in my example here, I'm defining a new rule. I'm specifying which user or user groups I want to allow access, and then I can go ahead and configure a posture profile as well. Do posture checking for the user that's coming in over HTTPS. Right, so we can check for posture for ZTNA. We support Windows and Mac. We support Windows and Mac OS checking, browser checking, as well as geolocation. So let's say you want for those users to restrict some particular users to access the application from a particular region. You have that ability to do that. Moving on to our demo. Okay, great. All right, so here's my client, and the point I'm trying to show here, right? I've got my client here, and I'm not connected to VPN. It's an AnyConnect client, but I'm not connected to VPN. And I do have the roaming client, and it's active, right? So with that combination, my user, when they go ahead and browse to some internet site, in this case, this guy is going to be checking their news from CNN, they're able to get there. I have a policy in place from our cloud security defined in our umbrella that prevents the user from going to Pinterest. So the point here is, even though I'm not connected to VPN, I still have DNS as well as web-based security protection. And now, if I want to access that internal app, let me go ahead and back up just a little bit here. This is the URL that I enter into my browser. Enter in my credentials. Go through my posture checking, as well as MFA. And now I have access to the internal application. If I want to take a look at the details of that connection, I have that ability here in our activity log. And as you can see, that was I'm a healer. She connected, and she accessed the internal applications. And then based on our DNS security rules, she was blocked from accessing those particular application sites. I know that went by a little fast. Let me see if I can fast forward a little bit just to give you an idea. There. So now I've got secure connectivity to my internal applications without being on VPN, as well as being protected from my internet traffic. All right, moving on. So earlier I showed you how we defined the application and the policy for ZTNA, clientless access. This is defining the policy for, or the application for VPN users to access. One thing I wanted you to point out here, right, notice in the configuration, because this is a full client, this is a VPN access, right, for all ports and protocols. Now you're being asked for an IP, you could enter a /32 address if you wanted to, but you can also enter a particular subnet. and specify the protocol as whether it's TCP, UDP. We also support ICMP now. That was a new fix that we just put in. And then the port range that you want to allow. When in terms of building the policy for that user that's connected, we use our cloud-delivered firewall to control the access here. And for those of you who are using Umbrella today, what you'll see in the firewall is a new option. The rule type will now have with Secure Connect rule type for internet-bound traffic and a rule type for private access traffic. With private access traffic, right now we don't support IPS and layer 7 rules. We will in the future, but with the internet we do support layer 3, layer 4, and 7 rules. The other thing I want to point out here is for internally bound traffic, we've got a default rule here that blocks the traffic. So one of the things that I learned, the first thing is, you get everything connected, and then the first thing I would do is start pinging. And then the pings would fail. And then I was like, oh, I forgot. The default rule for private access traffic is deny. So you need to specify, you need to go ahead and allow the traffic through. Just remember that. And when we define those rules, we can go ahead and use our identity as a source. And then the destinations, we support both the CIDR addresses, basically subnets, and then we can also specify the application, right? So we just went through configuring the application, so now we can use that as a destination in our rule, in our firewall rules. So one thing I'm going to shift a little bit here, and one thing I wanted to point out is, I've talked about how you connect into the service and access the applications, right? What I'm moving on to now is a little bit more of how do you, in terms of policy, how are you going to migrate your policy from what you're using today on-prem to our cloud-delivered firewall, right? And with Secure Connect, we have deep integration with Cisco Meraki. As you noticed in the dashboard, my demos, the dashboard is Meraki Cloud, the Meraki dashboard. We've just built in the Secure Connect user interface into the Meraki dashboard. And as part of that integration here, we've also got some tight integrations with Meraki, and specifically with our firewall, and with their firewall. So Meraki MXs, they have their own firewalls. And so if you're moving your apps to the cloud and you're moving your users who used to be able to VPN into Meraki infrastructure, if you're trying to migrate them to the cloud, obviously you would also like to migrate those policies that you used to manage on-prem into the cloud. And so what we've now just released is the ability to import those Meraki firewall rules into CDFW. And the outcomes of this are basically, right, now you've got centralized policy management for cloud and your branch, okay? So now you got, within Secure Connect, now you're centrally managing your policies for your firewall. And then, unlike traditional methods, where if your the number of users you have increase, you had to go ahead and purchase more VPN concentrators, do the whole racking and stacking and cabling exercise. No longer need to do that to scale, right? Now you're moving to a cloud-delivered service, so that we would automatically scale for you. As well as, now that you're not tunneling into the branch locations and relying on your on-site backbone to route your users to internal applications, you're now going to leverage our Secure Connect backbone to do that for you. And so the result here is, instead of managing different firewall rules, different branch, and different IP address pools at each branch site within Meraki. Now we'll be able to import those rules into Secure Connect, and now you're centrally managing those policies. So let me go ahead and move to my next demo. Did that work? Actually, let me do one thing here. I think I have, before I do that. Just to give you a lay of the land. So I have 3 Meraki branches. Each one of those branches have firewall rules in them. And what I want to do is migrate those rules into Secure Connect. Now, this first release that we have, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is the rules that we're migrating right now, we're only specifically targeting Meraki firewall rules specific to VPN users. Next phase, we'll be migrating in our east to west policies, but right now we're focused on any of the Meraki firewall rules that are specific to what they call client VPN users. We're going to plumb those into CDFW because now those users no longer necessarily need to connect into the Meraki infrastructure. Now they're going to be connecting in to the Secure Connect fabric. All right. So here I'm on my checklist page, right? And now I want to go ahead and configure my policies or migrate my policies. So first, I'm going to click this. I'm going to import our rules. And now I've got 3 Meraki sites. And on the right-hand side, the number of rules, we've already gone through, and each of those sites, they've got firewall rules, and then we've gone through and filtered how many of those firewall rules are related to remote access, and then we show that accurate count. So now that I've moved forward, here for branch 2, what the wizard was able to do, and I'm going to go back here for a little bit here. What the wizard was doing is, in branch 1 of branch 2, of the firewall rules that are already defined for that branch, I've found 4. Layer 3, 4 rules. And I found 1 layer 7 rule. So taking a look at the Meraki firewall rule for that branch, right? I added a total of 9 rules there. We've gone through and looked at each one of them. Source has to be a client VPN rule pool related to the VPN users, and the destination has to be internet-bound traffic. So we go through there, looking at the first one that meets that criteria. Source is RAS pool. Destination is our DNS, 8.8.8, 42221. Going through there, again, ICMP, any, that matches. Rule number 6, once I get past this part. Rule number 6, the destinations are internet traffic, but that's an FQDN. We don't support FQDN today, so that rule was not selected. And then going through, now we have 5 selected rules that are applicable, or 4 rules, and then they are listed there on the left-hand side. If I move further down, there's the layer 7 rule that's been defined. And so now I have an idea. That the point of that was to just show you how we went through the existing firewalls and selected what we needed, what we want to import, or the rules that meet the criteria, Now I'm selecting the rules that I want to import. I'm now going to branch 1. I found these two rules that are applicable. This one layer 7 rule, and look, now the wizard also tells me, hey, of these two, the firewall rules that I found for branch 2 and 1, I found duplicates. We allow the admin to go ahead and resolve those duplicates. Final summary of what I've got. And now I'm going to click on Import. Those rules have been imported into the cloud-delivered firewall. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. So what you can see here, we've got rules here. Those rules have been imported in to CDFW. They've been placed at the top. They're also disabled. So we're not copying over policy and making them active instantly, right? We're just copying over the rules. And as you dive into each and every rule, what you see here is we've copied over the rule, and now the source for the rule are remote access users. So this rule that I copied in from the Meraki firewall now has been copied over into the cloud-delivered firewall, and it's applicable for all remote access users. Copying in here, apparently this rule had logging enabled. So that was a layer 3-4 rule. Taking a look at that layer 7 rule that was moved over. And there you have it. And so as I mentioned, right, you can see the list of rules there. They're all disabled at this point in time. Once you've gone through them, once you're happy with them, you can go ahead and just simply enable it, and then it'll be enforced. Okay. All right, wrapping up. All right, so Cisco plus Secure Connect, right? So, we've offered a number of services within Cisco plus Secure Connect, security services. The services are DNS security, web security, cloud-delivered firewall, CASB, malware, DLP, file sandbox, and the intelligent interactive threat intelligence, So all of these security services that are in Umbrella today, and what you're adding with Secure Connect are the remote access capabilities, remote access VPN, as well as the ZTNA capabilities, as well as being able to easily connect in your network, your branches to the cloud. That connectivity, connecting in, making the onboarding to Secure Connect, very simple and easy. So with Meraki SD-WAN, I mentioned that it's just a 2-click operation. Select the Meraki site, click the region that you want that user to be, site to be connected to, and you're done. So with Cisco plus Secure Connect, in terms of securing your remote workers, one, we've enabled a very simple, easy way, a turnkey solution to enable remote access users to connect to the Secure Connect fabric and provides consistent access for the users wherever they are. No longer need to go ahead and deploy those VPN concentrators. You're now having your users connect into the cloud and access applications, whether they're on the internet or in the cloud or on-prem. That's very simple and easy to do. And then we're also at the same time securing your users as they work. So please see me and the rest of my colleagues at the SASE showcase in the world of solutions. If you would like, talk to your sales representative to get a proof of value for Secure Connect. Schedule a meet the engineer session, a one-on-one session at your convenience. And we also have more details about our solution on that particular URL, www.cisco.com/secureconnect. This I put here, this is a roadmap for all of the SASE sessions that we have. Please follow this. If you've missed any of these sessions, remember that all of our sessions are on demand, so you can go and review them later. And please don't forget to complete your survey. I've really appreciated your time today. Thank you for listening for me. Let me know what you thought about this session. Let me know if the demos were really helpful. And don't forget, fill out the survey. Thank you for coming today.